At exactly midnight, the dragon lifted its head, opened its ancient eyes and spoke a single word that shattered the silence of the room. Your Majesty, no one went to the Iron Bazaar looking for miracles. You went there to buy broken things, discarded machines, half-dead creatures, relics whose stories had already ended. That was why Kale Varin was there, counting the last 3 credits in his palm, hoping to find something he could resell for a meal. The Iron Bazaar squatted at the edge of the spaceport like a wound that never healed. Rusted scaffolds rose like skeletal ribs. Vendors shouted in a dozen languages, hawking cybernetic scraps, illegal fauna and artifacts pulled from forgotten wars. The air smelled of oil, ozone, and desperation. Kale wasn't young anymore. His spine ached from years hauling cargo between planets. His hands were scarred, his future thin. He wasn't a hero, just a man who had learned how to survive quietly. That was when he heard the chains. Not the heavy kind used for machines or prisoners, but old, ceremonial chains, gold-threaded, inscribed. He followed the sound to a narrow stall tucked behind a pile of dismantled mech parts. A single flickering light illuminated the merchant, a hunched alien with too many eyes and a smile that showed too many teeth. And behind the merchant was the dragon. It was smaller than the legends, about the size of a horse but unmistakable. Scales like darkened embers, folded wings traced with veins of dull gold. Its neck was bowed, head lowered, iron collar locked tight around its throat. Most striking of all, it didn't move. Broken, the merchant croaked, noticing Kale's stare. Doesn't breathe fire, doesn't fly, doesn't speak. Silent since we pulled it from a royal vault. Royal Kale frowned. Dragons hadn't existed for centuries, not since the Great Extinction Wars wiped out the old bloodlines. The ones tied to crowns and thrones and ancient compacts. Why sell it? Kale asked. The merchant snorted. Cursed things don't sell, won't eat, won't fight, won't even scream. I need the cage. Kale approached slowly. Up close, he saw the truth. The merchant missed. The dragon's eyes were closed but not dead. They were waiting. Something passed between them in that moment. Not words, not magic. A recognition that made Kale's chest tighten for reasons he couldn't explain. How much? Kale asked. 5 credits. I have 3. The merchant hesitated, then waved a claw dismissively. Take it, it'll die soon anyway. The collar key was cold in Kale's hand. The dragon allowed itself to be led away without resistance, chains clinking softly as they left the bazaar behind. That night, in Kale's tiny cargo room apartment, the dragon lay curled on the metal floor. Unmoving, silent, Kale sat awake for hours, wondering why he'd spent his last credits on a creature everyone else had abandoned. When the clock ticked over to midnight, the chains rattled. The dragon's eyes opened, glowing faintly gold. And for the first time in centuries, it spoke. Your Majesty, it said softly, bowing its head to Kale. Kale staggered back, heart hammering, because he had never been a king, or so he thought. Kale didn't sleep. He stood frozen as the dragon bowed before him, its massive head lowered, wings tucked with reverence that no beast should have shown a dockworker with empty pockets. You're mistaken, Kale said hoarsely. I'm not royalty. The dragon slowly lifted its head, its eyes now fully awake, burned with a soft ancient gold. You carry the blood, it replied. The last ember of the skybound throne. Kale laughed once, sharp and disbelieving. I was born in a refugee hab on Karth Station. My parents died hauling scrap. There were no crowns. The dragon's tail stirred, chains whispering across the floor. Crowns are not worn, it said. They are hidden. It leaned closer, lowering its voice as if the wars themselves might be listening. The royal line was erased by decree. Their children scattered, their names burned from history. But blood remembers. Kale felt suddenly cold. Fragments of memory surfaced, things he had never questioned. How biometric doors sometimes opened for him when they shouldn't. Why certain relics hummed faintly when he passed. Why soldiers had once stared at him too long before waving him through checkpoints without knowing why. No, Kale whispered. That's coincidence. The dragon shifted, and for the first time, Kale noticed the sigil carved beneath its collar, a shattered crown entwined with flame. I am not a beast, the dragon said. I am a warden. The word hit Kale like a hammer. Wardens were myth dragons bound by ancient pacts to protect royal bloodlines. When the Empire rose, it slaughtered the dragons first, knowing crowns could not rise without them. They killed you, Kale said. All of you. They tried. The dragon replied. I was sealed. Silenced. Sold. The dragon's gaze hardened. Waiting for you. Kale backed away until he hit the wall. You're saying, if anyone finds out, they will come. The dragon finished calmly. The Empire hunts ghosts. And you are the last one. As if summoned by the words, Distant sirens wailed outside the Hab complex. Search drones swept the sky, their lights slicing through the night like knives. Kale's communicator buzzed. Incoming alert, unregistered royal biometric signature detected. His blood turned to ice. That's impossible, he said. The dragon's wings flexed, metal groaning as ancient muscles strained against the chains. Your blood spoke, it said. And the galaxy heard. A heavy thud echoed down the corridor outside Boots, armored, moving fast. Kale looked at the dragon. You said you couldn't fly. Couldn't fight. The dragon's lips curled not in a smile, but something close. I said I was silent, it replied. Not powerless. Golden fire flickered between its teeth for the first time. The door shuddered as explosives were planted on the other side. Kale swallowed hard. If I free you, he asked, hand closing around the cold collar key, what happens next? The dragon met his gaze. Then the throne remembers its king, it said, and the empire remembers fear. The explosion tore the door off its hinges. Metal screamed as it folded inward, crashing across the floor in a storm of sparks. Smoke poured into the room, followed by the heavy, synchronized steps of Imperial enforcers, black armor, red optics, weapons already raised. Down on the floor, a voice barked through a modulated speaker. By order of the Empire, the words never finished. Kale's fingers closed around the collar key. For a heartbeat, he hesitated. Then the dragon spoke soft, urgent. Now, Your Majesty. Kale twisted the key. The collar shattered like glass. A shockwave rippled outward, throwing the first line of soldiers off their feet. Ancient runes ignited along the dragon's neck, burning away centuries of suppression. Its body expanded, scales brightening from ash dark to molten gold, wings unfurling until they scraped the ceiling. The room was suddenly too small for history awakening. The dragon inhaled. Fire erupted, not wild, not chaotic, but precise. A focused torrent of golden flame washed across the corridor, melting armor into slag and sending the remaining enforcers scrambling in panic. Dragon, someone screamed over the comms, confirmed Royal Warden fallback. Too late. The dragon stepped forward, chains falling away like dead skin. Its eyes blazed as it shielded Kale with one massive wing. Stay behind me, it commanded. Kale's legs shook, but he obeyed. This wasn't the fire of legend meant to destroy cities. This was judgment controlled, deliberate. Walls blackened. Weapons fused to hands. The soldiers fled, their certainty shattered by something the Empire had sworn no longer existed. Silence followed, broken only by the crackle of cooling metal. Kale stared at the dragon in disbelief. You said you were broken. The dragon lowered its head, fire fading from its throat. I was waiting, it replied. Wardens do not awaken for thieves or merchants. Outside, alarms escalated citywide now. Gunships roared overhead, searchlights tearing across the rooftops. The dragon turned toward the open sky, then back to Kale. We cannot stay, it said. The Empire will bring fleets, hunters, other wardens they enslaved. Other wardens, Kale echoed. The dragon's gaze darkened. Not all survived with their minds intact. That sent a chill through Kale worse than the gunfire. Where do we go? He asked. The dragon crouched, lowering its shoulder. Home, it said. To the skybound ruins where your ancestors ruled, and where the throne still waits. Kale laughed breathlessly. I don't even know how to be a king. The dragon looked at him not as a subject, but as a guardian. You will learn, it said, or you will burn. Kale climbed onto the dragon's back, heart pounding as massive wings folded around him. The dragon launched skyward, just as gunships opened fire. Missiles streaked past. Energy bolts scorched the night. With a thunderous beat of wings, the dragon climbed higher through smoke, through fear, through the lie that the royal bloodline was dead. Below them, the city shrank. Above them, the stars waited. And across the Empire, ancient sensors awakened, ones that hadn't triggered in centuries. Royal fire detected, Warden active, throne status, not extinct. Kale clutched the dragon's scales as the truth finally settled in. He hadn't bought a pet, he had awakened a rebellion. The skybound ruins rose from the clouds like the bones of a dead god. Floating islands drifted in slow, majestic orbits around a shattered central spire, gravity bending in defiance of physics. Waterfalls poured into nothingness. Ancient bridges of light flickered, half forgotten but still breathing with power. Kale stared in awe as the dragon descended. This was real, he whispered. This was everything, the dragon replied. They landed on a platform etched with runes older than the Empire itself. The moment Kale's boots touched stone, the ruins reacted, lights igniting, pathways reforming, dormant systems humming back to life. A voice echoed across the spire. Royal presence confirmed. Kale flinched. That thing sounds very sure about me. The dragon bowed its head. It remembers what the Empire tried to erase. As they moved deeper into the ruins, Kale felt Itan invisible pressure, not oppressive, but recognizing. Walls adjusted to his presence. Doors opened before he touched them. Ancient banners unfurled, their sigils blazing with renewed color. At the heart of the spire waited the throne. It wasn't gold or jewel. It was carved from starstone, simple and worn, shaped by generations of rulers who understood that power was a burden, not an ornament. Kale stopped several meters away. I don't want this, he said quietly. I never asked for it. The dragon stepped beside him. Neither did the best kings, it said. Kale laughed bitterly. The Empire will never let this stand. They already failed, the dragon replied. They killed rulers, not the idea of one. A tremor ran through the ruins. Warning glyphs flared red. Imperial fleet inbound, ETA 7 minutes. Kale's heart pounded. That's it, 7 minutes. The dragon's wings unfurled slowly. Then we make a stand. Kale stared at it. Against a fleet. The dragon's eyes gleamed. Not alone. The dragon lifted its head and roared. The sound wasn't just noise, it was a signal, a call woven into space-time itself. Across distant systems, buried beneath cities, sealed in vaults, chained in forgotten arenas, other wardens stirred. Some answered with clarity. Others answered with rage. Kale felt the ruins tremble as ancient defense systems powered up orbital lances. Gravitational shields. Weapons that hadn't fired since the Empire was born. You knew this would happen, Kale said. It was always meant to, the dragon replied. The throne does not choose safety, it chooses balance. Kale took a deep breath and stepped forward. He sat on the throne. The moment he did, the spire erupted with light. A surge of memory flooded him, visions of past kings and queens, of dragons and humans standing side by side, of laws written to protect the weak rather than dominate them. Tears burned in his eyes. I don't want to rule by fear, he said. The dragon bowed deeply. Then you are worthy. The first Imperial ships emerged from hyperspace, weapons armed. Kale rose from the throne, spine straight. Open all channels, he said. The ruins responded instantly. For the first time in centuries, the Empire was about to hear from its rightful king. The Imperial fleet filled the sky. Cruisers, destroyers, carriers, an armada meant to erase entire civilizations. Their hulls gleamed with cold authority as they surrounded the skybound ruins. Weapons glowing, targeting systems locking on. Inside the spire, Kale stood before a wall of living starlight. All channels open, the ruins announced. Kale swallowed. He wasn't dressed like a king, no armor, no crown, just worn boots and a jacket still smelling faintly of engine oil. But when he spoke, the galaxy listened. This is Kale Varen, he said. You call me an anomaly, a threat, a ghost. Screens across the fleet flickered. I was a dockworker, a nobody, and the Empire liked it that way. Admiral Soren Vex appeared on the primary display, stilled, immaculate, furious. You are trespassing on Imperial-controlled space, Vex said. Surrender the Warden and submit to genetic termination. This is your only mercy. Kale met his gaze. No. A ripple passed through the fleet as wardens emerged from hyperspace dragons of every shape and size. Some bore scars and chains. Others burned with raw fury barely contained. The dragon beside Kale lowered its head. Say the word, it growled. Kale raised a hand. I won't rule through slaughter, he said. The Empire taught the galaxy that power comes from fear. I'm here to end that lie. Vex sneered. You think mercy will save you? Kale nodded. No, choice will, he gestured, and the ruins projected images across every channel, records the Empire had buried. Dragon, genocide, crown purges. Entire worlds stripped of autonomy in the name of order. You built peace on erased history, Kale said. And history just woke up. Silence followed. Then something unexpected happened. One Imperial cruiser powered down its weapons, then another, a third. Across the fleet, hesitation spread like a fracture. Crews stared at the evidence, at the wardens, at the man who could burn them, all but chose not to. Vex shouted orders, veins bulging, fire. Only half the fleet obeyed. The rest broke formation. Kale exhaled slowly. This ends now, he said. Stand down, and there will be amnesty. Keep fighting and the old fire returns. The dragon's wings flared. Fire dancing along its scales, not unleashed, but promised. Vex's face twisted with hatred. This isn't over, he hissed as his flagship jumped to hyperspace, dragging loyal ships with it. The battle ended without a shot fired. Kale sank onto the throne, shaking. The dragon stepped closer, lowering its massive head. You chose restraint, it said. That is why they followed. Kale looked out at the retreating fleet, at the wardens circling the ruins like living constellations. I don't want an empire, he said quietly. The dragon smiled, a rare, gentle thing. Then you will build something better. Across the galaxy, worlds that had lived under quiet oppression felt something shift. Not rebellion, hope. And hope, Kale realized, was far more dangerous to tyrants than fire. The galaxy did not change overnight. Empires never fall cleanly. They fracture, resist, pretend nothing has happened. But after the standoff at the skybound ruins, something irreversible had begun. Kale Varin stood on the highest balcony of the spire, watching stars drift past ancient stone. Below him, wardens rested, some perched on floating islands, others circling endlessly, still unsure whether peace would last. You survived, Kale said softly. The dragon beside him folded its wings. We endured, it corrected. Survival was never the victory. Kale exhaled. The Empire will regroup. They'll try again. Yes, the dragon agreed. But not as gods. Across the galaxy, systems declared neutrality. Others demanded autonomy. Some Imperials defected, bringing fleets and secrets with them. The myth of invincibility was broken, and myths once cracked never heal. Kale never took a crown. He refused ceremonies, refused titles beyond steward of the Accord. Power, he learned, became dangerous the moment it tried to look eternal. Instead, he rebuilt what had been destroyed. The skybound throne became a council seat not for rulers, but for voices, humans, aliens, former Imperials, even wardens, whose rage slowly softened when given purpose instead of chains. The dragon watched it all quietly. One night Kale found it staring into the void. You could leave, Kale said. You're free now. The dragon's golden eyes reflected starlight. I was never bound to chains, it replied. I was bound to you. Kale smiled faintly. I bought you for 3 credits. The dragon rumbled a deep, amused sound. You paid the price history required. Years passed. Children were taught that dragons were not weapons but guardians who once burned when kings forgot mercy. The Empire still existed, smaller, restrained, watched closely by a galaxy that had learned how fragile tyranny really was. And Kale, he remained what he had always been at heart. A man who fixed broken things. Sometimes traders passed through the Iron Bazaar and told the story in hushed tones. How a silent dragon once lay chained and worthless. How a tired man with nothing left chose compassion over profit. They never agreed on the ending. Some said Kale ruled for decades. Some said he vanished among the stars. Some said the dragon still waits, watching, ready to burn again if balance is threatened. But everyone agreed on one thing. The greatest king in history never wanted a throne. He just listened when a forgotten dragon finally spoke at midnight. And because of that, the galaxy learned how close it had come to burning, and how close it still stands to hope.